spent 36 years at Echo Lake Country Club, and I've spent 26 years teaching in the Rutgers program. And I'm a little bit scared today because usually I'm teaching to young students who are entering the budgeting process. And I'm reminded of a couple of moments I had at Echo Lake Country Club where I had treasurers of large companies, a chief financial officer, and we had a member of the Fed on my budget committee. And I'm trying to talk finances to these people. And, I learned to keep my mouth shut, just talk about golf course stuff. But I'm going to throw some stuff at you, which I hope will resonate, which will be useful to you. It's going to be a lot. I hope, my goal is to have everybody in this room get one thing they can use out of it, and some of it will sound rudimentary, and some of it won't, I hope. The budget document should identify in very simple order what we are trying to achieve, how we will accomplish these goals, and what it will cost, and it starts with number one. It starts with what are we trying to achieve. So when I talk to students about the interview process, about how that interview is going to be won, it starts with having that conversation. What do you want? What do you want to be? What are we trying to achieve? And if you get something like, we want to be the best maintained course in the net area, well, good luck with that, because there's a heck of a lot of great superintendents in this area. But if that's what you want, you've identified it. And that's really important. So when you think about identifying golf courses, we're not going to break away for a weekend and do trust exercises and come up with mission statements. But could you imagine a mission statement for the green department of that golf course? Could it be something like the best maintained golf course in the world? Is it possible? Something like that? Is that possible? I think it might be. It's great. Augusta's great. They extend the courtesy of allowing golf course superintendents to go and view the masters. That's great that they do that. And a lot of us have appreciated that. Here's a different golf course that's also great. Who knows what that is? Oregon? Bandon Dunes. It's great too, but it's different. It's not a links lane. You can see there's a cliff there, so it's not links by definition, but it's a links style golf course. Fescue's whole different management strategy, completely different than Augusta National, but it's also great. I'm going to show you a third golf course, and I wonder if anybody in this room, any of the golfers in this room in particular, this resonates with you. Did anybody spend any time in your golf career on something like that? Anybody? Okay. To that kid playing with his grandfather, learning the game of golf, that is the greatest piece of property on the earth. Each one of them have got different missions. Each one of them has a different statement of what we're trying to be. The bottom might be affordable golf, date golf, outing for the family, $15 courtesy, put it in the jar at the beginning, at the cigar box. It could be. The cool thing is, each one of those play the same game. Tee the ball up, hit the ball, find the ball, hit it again. It's golf. And I love that about it. I've taught over 1,700 students at Rutgers. 3 have known the mission statement of their club. The first to know it was a guy named Bubba Wright. He was an intern at Pebble Beach, and he immediately threw it at me. The other 2 were interns at the Pebble Beach Corporation. All 3 of them were at the Pebble Beach Corporation, and that's their mission statement: exceed the expectations of every guest by providing a once-in-a-lifetime experience every time. I said, how did you know that? How did you know what you were trying to be? He said, we had to know it. It was on every paycheck. There were banners. It was posted over the urinals. Everywhere you had the mission statement, and every single member of the entire staff across the entire corporation knew that. Bubba has since moved on. He was in charge of the grounds there, and he's moved on. So where do we start? Where do we start when we're trying to define what our budget should be, what our intent is? I'm going to talk about a course management standards document. Put it on paper. Have a meet with your superintendent and have that discussion. This is what we're trying to do. This is how we're going to get there. Don't talk about money yet. Start with what we're talking about. I think it's the starting point for meaningful preparation and budget, really, if you think about it. I think you can identify and should identify what you're going to do on a daily, weekly, and yearly schedule. I think that's a great starting point. This is going to help a lot if you've got a polarized membership. So I worked at Echo Lake Country Club in Westfield, New Jersey, 40 miles and 2-hour drive from here. We had a very stable club, very great club, delightful club to work for. We had one episode where we had a coup. There was a transition on the board, and by one vote, an alternate slate came in, and the new president asked, I'm not going to give you a name, Stewart, to be the Greens chairman. And Stuart said, I will be the Greens chairman if you give me full autonomy. And he said, okay, you got it. So Stuart got up on opening night dinner and loudly proclaimed that golf is supposed to be hard. We're going to make it hard. That's the way it's going to be. And there's nothing you can say about it. And then he insisted that I put a 4.5-inch rough on the golf course. Now 4.5 inch, and then he wanted it fertilized. So I called one of the Alonzos at Westchester. So not your dad. Joe. Because they used to have the Westchester Classic. I said, Joe, how do you do it? And anyway, I put 2.8 pounds of quick relief nitrogen down per 1,000 square feet, which is superintendent. So you want to talk about speed of play. Lost balls, lost clubs. 2 caddies are still missing. I'm telling you, the rough is... And from that became, I had to do this. I had to put this on paper. And on there I put that the Green, I put all things they're doing. I said, the Green Committee has decided that rough is going to be penal and, because I didn't want them thinking that this is my idea. Because it wasn't. It was idiotic is what it was. It gives us a chance to talk about variables. Golf course superintendents deal with something called weather. I say that with tongue in cheek, but quite often members don't fully understand that weather does impact what we do. So something in there, this would be in mind, we expect to achieve our target green speeds 90% of the time, weather will negatively affect us. So talk about weather, talk about the variables, it gives a chance for us to have a conversation with the membership about some of the challenges that we face. It gives us a chance to talk about consequences. Our greens, built in 1911, have a speed limit. Excessive green speeds eliminate valuable hole locations. The superintendents will know what I'm talking about. And a lot of the changes in green speed has resulted in reconstruction of greens and softening of greens because green speeds have gotten so far. My 17th green was rebuilt because it went to 13% usable couplable space. In other words, 87% of the green was rendered useless because greens got so fast. So we had to change it. It also gives us a chance to talk about budgeting strategy. We budget for a moderately difficult year. I think it's important that superintendents say that and Greens chairman understand that. You know, I'm not going to budget for the worst possible year I can imagine, but I'm also not going to go for the average or even the easiest. I budgeted for a moderately difficult year, which gave me room to go either way. Yes, there were times when I came in $20,000 or under budget, because it was an easy year. It was a benign year. Yes, there were times when I went over budget, because it was a pretty difficult year. But that's my starting point. When we talk about putting standards on paper, we talk about things like green speed or frequency of cutting or bunker maintenance or really cool, this autonomous stuff. Course setup is important, pest thresholds, and we go preventative or curative with applications for pests, for fungus, for weeds, for insects. Talk about the weather, talk about the golf calendar. Expectations are going to change. And that's just the way it is. So just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, when I started at Echo Lake Country Club, I took snip meter readings on the front of my 12th green, basically every day, every golf day for 36 years. And I've got that information in my daily diary. So I can tell you that my first member guest, I was really proud of myself because in 1986, our member guest green speed was 8 feet and a quarter inch. I was excited. That asterisks and arrows and circles and red dots has over 8 feet. That was big. And when I retired in 2022, my green speed was 13 feet, 7.5 inches. Expectations change, abilities change, chemicals change, machinery changes, and we need to be aware of that. The discussion I had 36 years, 40 years now, when I was hired, was not pertinent 36 years later. In fact, nobody who hired me was either alive or still at the club when I retired. So these things happen, these things change, and that conversation has got to be ongoing, and I use my budget document, the cover letter of my document, as that conversation. Talking about goals from last year, how we did against goals for next year. And that's my way to continue the conversation with expectations and what I'm trying to do, raising the bar, and here's how we're going to get there. A typical club's membership like mine basically turns over every 15 years, if you think about it. You 5 or 6% change in membership every year. That means people won't know. Do newer members even share the club's goals? Do they even know what those club goals are? And part of the job as Greens chairman, part of the job as superintendent, is to make sure that our members know what we're trying to do. So that standards document I talked about is posted on our club website for all to see, for anybody that's interested. And I think that's a really useful way of getting the word out. I'm going to talk a little bit today, very quickly, about some of the stuff you've already heard. So Adam's presentation, is Adam still here? Yeah. So you can see stuff that resonates with you. Because I also teach professional development at Rutgers University. And some of this is going to resonate, I think. You're going to see it again. But I just happen to agree with some of the things you really said today. Oscar Wilde said that a cynic knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. When superintendents present budgets, when Green's chairman and superintendents discuss this with each other, we have to focus on value. What is in it for me? What is my return? What can the members expect from this investment? I'm going to show you a not particularly useful document. This is a magazine that just came out in January, Golf Course Industry Magazine. This is just a survey, if you will, done by a company for my new farm to gather information on budgets. And you can see that in 2026, the average non-capital maintenance budget was $1.32 million. I have a strong suspicion that in the Westchester area it's quite a bit higher than that. Is it fair to compare? Your auditor, all your club's auditors, who do all these different clubs in the area, are going to give you much more useful information. So I'm sure that your controller at your club gathers that, or I'm sure that the decision makers at your club will look at those kinds of comparisons for sure. I think it is fair to compare, but I also think it's completely unfair to compare. So, for example, Echo Lake Country Club club was formed in 1899, built on its current site in 1911, 141 acres, accessible greens. So somebody today was talking about his Charles Banks, steam shovel Banks greenside, steep-sided bunkers, right? Look at the labor that's, okay, everybody's pointing up there. You didn't point, you point to you? I'm sure that's a great golf course with a great architect, but anybody that's doing those big 30-foot tall steep-sided bunkers know, I think he said 300 hours to maintain them. No, that was the spray guy. I was paying attention, sort of. But I know what running a fly loan is like. That's back-breaking work. It's expensive work, and you're finding solutions to that. But that golf course is a lot different than mine. I don't have that kind of steepness. I do have some, but I don't have anything near that. So when we compare, we have to be very, very careful. If you were to use cost of maintenance per hole, so if it's $1.8 million and you've got 18 holes, that's $100,000 per hole. If I'm $900,000 at 18 holes and I've got $50,000 per hole, is that a fair comparison? And the answer is probably not. It gives you a guidepost, but it's probably not. If you've got a golf course that's very similar to yours with very similar goals and aspirations, maybe similar architect and similar size, it may very well be fair. But all those things are different. And I'll talk to the students at Rutgers and I'll ask, what do you pay for water? For me, it was $4,400 a year permit. That's what it cost me for water, plus electricity. And the worst that I've ever heard was $1.2 million for water for a golf course in Las Vegas. And it's important that you know that. And every golf course is going to be different. Is it purchased equipment or is it leased equipment? Leased equipment is going to be in the operating budget, and purchased equipment is going to be in the capital budget. So, cost of maintenance per hole may or may not be useful. Number of employees at neighboring club, maybe. I always considered it a compliment when my members would compare me with my neighbors. My neighbors were Baltusrol and Plainfield. And they'd say, well, you know, okay. Their budget's literally, Plainfield was literally 80% more than mine, and Baltusrol was literally 3 times mine. And, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? There's a direct connection between aspirations and what we're trying to achieve and how we get there. My club has historically been a very frugal club, looking to return value, always. Until the last 3 years of my employment, which a whole new membership came through and things changed. For the first time since 1947, my club started borrowing money. Before that, they paid for everything in cash. Everything. Including $12 million of master plan work, including the irrigation system, cash. Now they started borrowing, so things change. And our job as superintendents is to keep on top of that. Pay scale at neighboring clubs is definitely something you can pay attention to. If you're starting guys at $15.50 an hour and next door is starting people at $20 an hour, that's going to be a problem. Now there's union up here, correct? Some of you guys are union. That eases some of that concern. There's other concerns with it, but at least you've got a base that's fairly level. Pay scale of neighboring businesses makes a difference. So for me, the landscapers are paying, well, when I left, it was $20 an hour cash for landscape employees. And that's important because that's sort of the pool of people we select from. What we have to do is when we're going for that employee, yes, but we offer sick days, yes, but we offer health care, yes, but we offer vacation pay, et cetera, quality of life. There's balance here, but being aware of what other people are paying, it's important. It's important to know it. So we have to pay attention to the differences between water costs, acreage, architectural design for sure, membership expectations, equipment leases, that kind of thing. I'm going to show you an idealized, I made this up, so don't hold me to it. Budget versus course quality. On the bottom is budget, and on the left is quality of the golf course. Where does every superintendent want to be on that line? Above that line or below that line? What do you think? The answer is above. We want to be above that line. That means that we're getting a better quality. In other words, we're doing more with less. I love it. So here's Hank Green's chairman. Never ask your superintendent to do more with less. We can do less with less. I think we can do. We can be efficient. We can provide quality, especially where Echo Lake was, which is here. But that difference here, that delta, that's the value that your golf course superintendent contributes to the cause. I'm teaching people stuff. I'm teaching stuff you guys all know. This is the area where putting $100,000 into the course would really pay off because the quality is going to zoom up. If you're all the way over here on the side where $2.5 million is the budget. What's the big budget in Westchester? 3 million plus? 4 million? How much? 4 million. 18 holes? I need to change my chart. So.
It's only been 3 years. What happened?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. When I left, I was 1.1 million. My assistant of 7 years took over, and 4 years later, he's at 1.9 million. That's what happened. That's country club life. Here's the problem. How do we measure quality? It's subjective, isn't it? How do we measure quality? Well, there are some ways to really get a glimpse at it. And as Greens chairman, you should be paying attention to this. As superintendents, we try to pay attention. Total round, guest rounds, member guest attendance, direct member surveys. Have you done that? Has anybody here done a direct member survey? Direct member survey? Have you? Has it been useful to you? Yeah. You get feedback, and sometimes it's painful, but sometimes it's always useful, correct? Or a size of your waiting list. That's certainly something that's blossomed and bloomed at my club. Outings, how many are you getting? What price are you getting for them? And independent ratings. I had a student from Finland. While he was at Rutgers, he became a superintendent. He went back to Finland, and he says, in Finland, every single golf course subscribes to this thing where at the end of every round, every golfer fills out a survey of the quality of the golf course, quality of the bunkers, quality of the experience, all that kind of stuff. That scares superintendents because that's like getting your 5th grade report card and say, but it's a great way of taking the pulse of the people that are using your facilities. Speaking of which, what does the superintendent see? It's different than the golfers. We see things differently than you do. Most golfers never really think about what's underneath the surface, and superintendents obsess about the result. We obsess about it. Golfers, as a general rule, are focusing on what? Something different. We don't mess with your heads when we aerify. We're trying to do something good for you. We're trying to give them firm, fast greens. That's what we're doing. We're doing it for a reason. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. The members, what does the members see? They see things differently. They see the way the ball rolls. They see the way their shots react. They love golf, not turf. And superintendents need to remember that when we make our budget presentations, we need to make sure that we don't talk turf talk. We need to talk business, we need to talk golf, and a little bit of turf, but we need to talk the business and golf much more than we talk about turf. By the way, what does the crew member see? Is it any different, you think? I guarantee you this crew member, this young person who was teaching how to cut rough, saw this out-of-bounds stake. I know he saw the out-of-bounds stake because he cut around it 7 times. What he needed to know was get off the machine and move the out-of-bounds stake so I can cut. Okay? But the thing is, it's not done by magic. We've got this hard-working crew, dedicated and mostly invisible workforce. If we do our work properly, we get ahead of play. You don't see us. It's almost like the magic machines you're talking about. Once you've gotten used to them, you don't even see them. I guess that's what you're telling me. I think that's cool. So it's a superintendent, I think it's a superintendent and the Greens Chair's job to give life to the green crew. What am I talking about? Think about the caddies at your club. There's a lot of caddies here in the Northeast. These people are going out, they're having a relationship, they're spending 4.5 hours with this golfer, they're becoming friends with these people, they're conversing with, they're having a relationship. And members are happy to give $120 cash per bag. Happy to do it. They do it because they want to support this young person in their college endeavors, and they like them. There's a relationship there. There's a relationship between the person in the clubhouse and the person serving, the waiter, the waitress. There's a relationship there, but there isn't a relationship there on our golf course people, really. So somebody said about an open house and family there and meeting, was that you, Ron? Somebody. Somebody said. Was it you again? Yeah. Okay. You're stealing all my good stuff, but I love that. I love it. This is our job. It's all about the people. These are the people that are doing stuff like this. And they're doing this when it's 95 degrees and hot and humid, and they're not complaining, they're doing the job. They're doing it with pride. And how do I know that there's pride? How do I know that there's ownership, which is what superintendents want? I love it when I see my guy Vicente stopping what he's doing and taking a picture of his golf course, because he's got ownership there. And I think great leadership, and it comes from Greens chairman, it comes from Greens committees, it comes from superintendents. It's all about making your staff feel that what they do is important. The budget process is year-round, so if you've got Pythium, things are going to happen. You've got Pythium on the golf course on July 25th, you're going to treat it, of course, but what are you going to do? You're not going to communicate. You're going to communicate right away with your boss. You're going to say, okay, this is unexpected. Here's an $8,000 application. This is what we've done. And then you're going to have a conversation about the implications of budget and why this happened, how we're going to prevent it going forward, if necessary. It's important that the chairman is kept up to date, not just on course conditions, but also on budget status. So my take on this is to set up a process. Probably most of the superintendents in this room understand this, so that there's give and take, and that concerns are added. For me, it was a monthly pre-board variance report. I would get my expense statement 2 days before the board meeting, and I would look for variances, and this is an old one, but I just want to show you, where I had a variance of 3,000 of payroll, a variance of 7,000 chemicals. So I would write a text or an email or a phone call to my boss and answer the questions before the questions get asked. I didn't want my boss ever to go into that board meeting and ask, how come you're $7,000 over on chemicals? That's about the worst thing I could do as a superintendent. So my process was to have a variance report given to my boss before every board meeting. Likewise, I expected and got a post-board meeting update from my chairman. This is what the board had to say. This is the status of the club. Here's the finances. And the finances are important. Your superintendent must have a full and clear picture of your club's financial position. And I mean full. I assume that's going to be the case with all of you, but if not, I suggest changing it. We need to know, how does the money flow at your club? It took me 3 years at Echo Lake before I realized I really needed to know that dues pays this, and there's a depreciation fund for capital, and this is where initiation fees. I needed to know that. What the financial headwinds in the near future are for my club, Echo Lake. What are the needs of other departments in the club? If we're all putting all our money, assets into redoing the kitchen, for example, I need to take a step back on some of my requests, knowing that there are other people in line, and it's a full operation. We all need to be aware of that. Are there times of plenty coming, which is right now? There's an awful lot of investment going into golf courses, which is cool. And maybe there's an opportunity for us to solve some of those nagging problems that are going along. Our goal should be, between superintendent and green chairman, and superintendent, no surprises. We should know what's going on. It should be a friendly, ongoing conversation so that neither one of us are surprised. So, superintendents, can you describe in words a greens mower? You probably could. You probably could. Could you describe a $60,000 or probably $80,000 spin grinder now to maintain that greens mower? You probably could. But a better choice is, Adam, how about a tour of the maintenance facility? Okay? Let them see the equipment, see that you're taking care of the equipment, see that it's properly stored, see that you're maintaining it, see what it takes. It gives them a feel. It talks about the investment. They actually get to see it. And by the way, here's a chairman. I found out, I got to give you a good number, by the way. I got this yesterday because I didn't know. Chairman challenge, can you guess how much a walking greens mower costs? What do you think, Chairman? Anybody? Walking greens mower. No idea? That machine right there, $19,000 list price. students told me that, I thought it was 13,000. What happened? Well, what happened is 3 years ago. I know. I remember it was 3. But then I'm old. Equipment replacement intervals are the kind of thing we need to discuss with our chairman, okay? Keeping up to date, reinforcing your maintenance philosophy. Are we buy and hold? Are we lease? Are we hybrid? Some lease, some buy. It doesn't make any sense for us to lease. I don't think it makes any sense to lease a walk-behind air fryer because we use it so frequently. That would be a buy for me. Whereas greens mowers may be a lease because you want to update it and turn it over. Your equipment, the autonomous stuff, I would think lease makes a lot of sense as new technology is coming on board. The scale's going up so fast. So prepare for the ask. Both of you, for both of us, the superintendents and the green chairman, we have to prepare for the ask of the committee. What do I mean by that? Basically, I don't have enough time to do all this, but a 3-year plan can be your best friend. For example, I might not want to have $380,000 worth of fairway equipment replaced now, but I want to put it on your radar screen. So my budget document would say something like this: our 3 fairway mowers are nearing the end of the useful life. I'm certain we can get to 2026. But we need to think about next at 2027. In other words, get it on the horizon so that when the ask finally comes, they're prepared for it. They know the price of this. And I've been talking about it all these years. It took me 7 years to get a new irrigation system. This is my club. You can see the rough is basically dead. This is a typical summer for me. Never spent much time in the rough because we didn't have any irrigation in the rough. I spent about 4.5 years preparing for the ask. I finally got it to the point where my green chairman said to the Green Committee, it's time for a new irrigation system. We need to move, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it right. What do you think, Chris? I said, I think that's a great idea. I support your idea. As soon as he said that, I knew I had it because it became his problem, not my problem. I love that. But it took me 4.5 years to get there. Okay? Compare that to all of a sudden coming up, my budget was presented in September. And all of a sudden blindly saying I'd like $5 million for new irrigation system, please. It doesn't work. We have to prepare for the ask. And I'm going to reveal a couple of mistakes I made, a pretty big mistake I made. I told my club, I informed my club, with this new irrigation system, we're going to get now 5 rows. In other words, we're throwing water out into the rough. Okay? This is not the first year, but the second year after I applied irrigation. Anybody know what's going on in here? Louder? Water? Overwater? No, but thanks for playing. I gave this picture to the New Jersey Greens chairman, and none of them got it. So let's see if everybody can go. What? What did I hear? Summer patch. Look at you. You must be a superintendent. So you can see the fairway, intermediate rough, and can you see about 18 inches of decent rough there, and then everything on the outside? That's disease. That's summer patch. And the reason it was there is because I hadn't renovated the rough yet. Now I told them I needed to do that, but we now have water, and my members thought, and I didn't do a good enough job selling it, my members thought water means quality, and it wasn't just that. So that was a problem. It was poor communication on my part. What am I talking about? This is, I had resodded this about 3 years before. This is an improved variety of turfgrass, new science. This is resistant to summer patch. All the weeds around it, dead from summer patch. They got the same amount of water, same amount of treatment, same amount of nothing. No chemicals at all in this stuff. And you can see the difference between an improved variety and a native variety. So I started redoing things, and I started circling the fairways with some cheap product and starting to make some progress. This is the next year, and you can see that there's no chemical coming out of those sprayers. I've never had 2 people back to back in a sprayer, Tom. Environmentally sound. Never happened. It's a stage picture. But I made 2 rounds of the cheapest possible chemical I could come up with, which is tebuconazole, which is a cheap DMI. And did I get credit for saving the 2 loops around the fairway, or did I get blamed for the areas in between that I didn't spray? What do you think? And out of that came, we're spraying 65 acres of rough 3 times a year, and now Brian sprays 4 times a year. And I never in my life would think I was going to spray fungicide on the rough. Never. And I wanted to keep I like getting a paycheck, so I did it. So superintendents, what language do we speak in the budget discussion? Is it turf, is it golf, or it's business? And I would suggest to you golf and business are the 2 languages that matter most in that kind of discussion. If you're proposing a fairway drainage project, what are you selling? Are you selling that? Are you selling that? Are you selling recovery of that? No. What we're selling is that. That's what we're selling. That's the language we need to speak when we're doing that kind of a project. The key is always about communication. I had a chairman in 2011. He says, "Tell me what you need, Green." He was in my office. He was loud. Tell me what you need, Chris. Don't say manpower. So this is 2011, so this is 3 years after the crash, 2.5 years after the crash. I said, well, I need manpower. So I took the month of July, and I said, okay, well, I broke it down. And out of that, you can see bunkers 11%, bunker banks 11%, 22%. Out of that, I showed that meeting a week later. Out of that came the conversation, we spent how much money on bunkers? And the answer was a lot. I spent more than twice the amount of money on bunkers than I did on my greens, which is insane if you think about it, but that's what's happening in this world today. By the way, don't have time to say it, I'll just go quick. There's a golf course in Virginia, one of my students, he's the winner. They had a 14-person bunker crew, full-time. I said, what do you mean full-time? What'd you do when you were done bunkers? He looked at me funny. What do you do when you're done bunkers? What do you mean? At 10 o'clock in the morning, you're done ranking bunkers. He said, you start again. $660,000 a year to rake the hazards. That's what they were doing. $660,000 a year to maintain the hazards at this club. That's budget. Now, do I agree with that? No. Did the club agree with it? Yes. That's the standard they wanted. They were prepared to pay for it. Nothing wrong with that. I just don't agree with it. I then showed this chart. We showed the month of July where the labor was disappearing. You know that this is 2008 versus 2011. And then this one, I showed this one, and you can see we've lost 600, no, where are we? This one, and you can see this is 49 weeks to date, and we lost 3,800 man-hours, even though my club didn't know that. So I showed those 3 charts to my chairman, and he said, at that meeting, after I showed those 3 charts, so what you're saying is you need manpower. Communication gap. Similarly, I had a Sunday, January, warm, heavy rain. We were expecting a polar vortex, which means flash freeze. That's bad. I needed to get a puddle of water off the golf course. I had no crew. Everybody's laid off. I sent out an email to the board. They said they'd give us a call. We'll squeeze you. I said, yeah, okay. And they came. I was baffled. That's the president in the middle, and that's four of the board members. They squeegeed for an hour and 10 minutes, at which point they went to the clubhouse and drank beer in front of the fire. But out of that came an approval, a long asked for approval for a drainage project. So broke the communication barrier. Why? By inviting people. So social media guy, again, you. So this is Twitter, fantastic tool in my membership. Okay, I'm showing this is Dave. Sorry, it's okay. I'm showing that. Thank you. I posted that. Then I posted this. This makes yes. That's turf porn. This whole hill was going to be cut 17 feet. All those trees had to come down, but I posted that. I posted that one, and my boss sent me a all caps text. No more pictures of trees getting killed, because he was getting some negative feedback. But this is the kind of stuff that my members love. They loved updating on the very large $10 million renovation. They paid $10 million in cash for it. This is the kind of stuff on a daily basis. They absolutely love it. If you can't bring your decision makers to the problem, you can bring the problem to them. What am I talking about? This is my first town hall meeting, 1988. Does anybody ever remember the days of metal spikes at the bottom of shoes, and walking out across the bridge and feeling important like you're a real golfer? Click, clack, click, clack, click. Okay? Or putting your foot up there and tying your shoes and it's scraping down on the side of the thing and ruining the But that wasn't the whole thing. You can see all the marks there. What was the problem? Is this a symptom or is this a problem? I showed this picture first to a town hall meeting at my club, 1988, and then I showed this picture and immediately got approval for new cart storage park. I brought the problem to them. Or if people say the bunkers need more sand, I showed them this picture. I had 21 inches of layer sand. I didn't need more sand. I needed to rebuild that bunker. That's a bunker that is completely blown out that needed to be rebuilt. It got easier and easier and easier, so I showed this to my green committee. We had rebuilt the 17th green, strip and flip. We took the post sod off, rebuilt it, leveled it, put the sod back on. At the very last minute, Greens chairman, Golf Pro, what we need to do is we need a runoff on the back of it, a runoff. That's what we need, a runoff, because Greens chairman become architects real fast. And so we put a runoff, but we didn't have any more post sod. So what do we put? Well, we put bentgrass sod on there. This is 9 o'clock in the morning. Superintendents will know that bentgrass shade, no good. By this time, I had reached the point where it was a lot easier to take trees out. That's my shop in the background. This next picture is taken from that about a month later, and you can see that we now have morning sun because those trees, those hard weeds, were removed. So clear ongoing discussion about the expectations of the membership should be part of the budget discussion. It must be a two-way conversation. We need to hear what the thoughts of the members are, what the thoughts of the committees are, what the thoughts of the board are, if it's a private club. And you need to hear what our real life issues are, what we're up against. It needs to be two-way. It 100% needs to be two-way. Here's a great quote. Superintendents will understand this. UCLA football coach Rick Neuhausel was asked, "Why were you fired?" And his answer was, "Failure to meet or exceed underfunded expectations." The bottom line. Remember in high school, remember this thing? You put a little thing over here and an ounce of sulfur over here, you weigh, okay? Golf course superintendents, when they're in balance, when the needs of the golf course are taken care of and the needs of the membership are in balance with that, that's our goal. When the budget and the expectations match, we're gold. And I think our job as superintendents, and your job as Greens chairman, for those in the room, is to sit down and find that balance point. Kevin, I know I've got about 3 minutes left, so I've got a bonus round. Can I use that? It's quick. Green chairman bonus round. 3 ways you can become a hero to your superintendent and crew. First of all, you know who that is? What a challenging spell of weather you've been dealing with. Please let the crew know how much we appreciate all they're doing to help us get through this difficult period. Who's in the picture? Allison McKenzie, thank you. How about this one? Show up at the shop on the second day of member guest tournament before they start. It's going to be dark, with donuts, coffee, and a few kind words of thanks. It doesn't take much. Who is it? That's not who else. You all know that Allison McKenzie learned under Old Tom, correct? You all know that Don Ross learned under Old Tom. And this is who? National Golf Links? Oh. Charles Blair McDonald. And he also learned under Old Tom, so that's the patriarch of our business. I used to tell my assistants, someday before I die, I want somebody to come up to me and say, "Thanks for aerifying the greens. I know that's going to make a contribution." I have lived to have this happen to me. My final year on the golf course, 2022, I'll never forget it. I was standing with my assistant on the 10th tee. A newer member came over to me with a big smile on his face and shook up on aerification day, my last aerification of my life, which, believe me, is a golden spike. And he said, "Hey, Chris, thanks for aerifying the greens." I said, "What? Did somebody put you up to that?" And he said, "What do you mean? It's going to make the golf course better and firm and fast. You need to do this, right?" I said, "You sure do." And I so I can die happy. So thanks for the invite, Kevin. I hope you all have an enjoyable season. And